Here's what happened. Since starting my first business over 10 years ago, there have been so many different moments that come up where I've been uncertain and been like, what the hell am I even doing? With like unexpected challenges that come in. And I think about all of the habits I've built over the years. And then after my burnout in 2018, after that social media conference, to think about this foundation that I now have and this trust that I now have with myself. I can't imagine if I didn't have that in the times that we're living in right now, because there's a lot of crazy shit going on out there. And you think about that if it's relating to your own building of the business, if that's relating to what's going on in just the different arguments online that you could get into with different topics, if that's culture issues, to then like AI coming into this thing and like feeling like the world's all about to go end. We're gonna have Terminator that's gonna happen. So it can feel really crazy out there, and it comes back to then what can happen for your confidence, where you can feel really low in that confidence. And I go back to Alex Ramosi. I really like how he puts this, where it's just like you either have more or less of something. It's not like it's either more confident, less confident. You have more honesty, less honesty. And I really like that way of bringing it into it with confidence, where you can either expand it or you can shrink it. And right now, if you're feeling like it's shrunken down, I want to share with you a habit that I've done for the last 14 days that could really be something amazing for you to try out in order to be able to expand your confidence. And that's lifting weights at home. So let's get into it. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you could be doing a bunch of different stuff. Speaking of like what the craziness that can be out there, there's a lot of distractions that are out there. And so by you being here, it's taking a moment to celebrate that and appreciating that you were here for you to focus in on being present, to talk about my experience over these days that I've been focused on this new habit. And so what I like to do is I say there's a lot of shit, the challenges that you've dealt with to get to this point. And then you probably have a lot of these challenges afterwards you got to deal with. So right now what we'll do is we're going to get present, take a deep inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. You can stretch it out if you want. I'll get a little stretch in, but here we go. Let's get present. Deep inhale. And release. Oh, yeah. Stretching it out. Oh, man. This is always nice. Oh, man. Feeling some tightness in my shoulders, too. You can notice if you notice any pressures, tensions in the body. Take a moment to check in. All right. Welcome back. And then if you're new here, welcome. And if you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. I've got a few commitments for you I want to go through. First one is to continue to grow this show. So by you subscribing and following, it helps with honoring that commitment to continue to grow this movement that's around this one mission of Make Burnout Extinct, which is absolutely wild. Coming up here on 8 months of having since the launch of the show, and it's been wild to witness just the growth of this movement. So I really appreciate and grateful for that, because without it's hard to show up without that support and record these conversations, share them with you. So I appreciate that. The second one I have for you is to be honest with you, to share the full experience of what it takes to make burnout extinct, based off of my own personal experience, where after I hit my burnout after the 2018, the social media conference where 500 people came together, I want to share with you the expectations, what to prepare for, as well as, insights I'm gathering, out there, and then people that are coming on sharing their stories and their insights. I think of one of the things that led me to my burnout after the event was I lied. I lied so much along the way. And what I didn't notice at the time was that there was this pressure and this tension that was building. I kind of I recognized that, but I couldn't tell the truth of like how I was feeling. It felt like, to people around me, to my team, to the community, how exhausted I actually was. I felt like I just had to ignore that and keep pushing through. And all of these lies is one of the reasons why I believe I hit my burnout. You look back and you're like, all right, this is the pattern. These are the different patterns that were coming up, and that's one of them. And so for me, one of my values now is honesty. And of course, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but to the best of my ability, I want to be able to share with you the true experience of what it takes to make burnout extinct, and to remind you that it absolutely is possible. So it's not just the results, which in the simplest form is feeling more energized in your day. being able to feel excited with that momentum that you have towards the vision you have for the business, for your life, or this feeling of aliveness. Like it's that and the hard work behind the scenes, putting in the reps when people aren't watching you. When you get off track, honoring all the different emotions that can come up, the guilt, the shame, the frustration, anger, and then be able to move through it and continue to show up and put those reps in and just to realize, moving on with your life. And so it's all of that. And I want to do the best that I can to be able to share with you that experience. And when I make mistakes, own up to that and share that with you too. So thank you for being here. Let's get into it for today. Today, what I want to talk about is my experience with with this new habit of lifting weights at home. And I have done this on and off over the years. I'll get into my story if you haven't heard about it. Back in 2021, when I could barely do one pull up at my brother's garage, he had a pull up bar set up. But I want to be consistent with this habit now in where I'm at in the business, as well as all the stuff that's going on around the online, in person. I mean, there's a lot of that craziness that's out there. And so I want to make sure that I'm feeling strong in my foundation as I get to go through life, and not feel like I'm getting pulled in all these different directions, but being able to filter it out based off of what do I want for my vision, for who I want to become, for the business, for my overall life. So that's context for getting into it for the habit. I'll share with how this relates to burnout. And then I want to go through all the 14 days to also, speaking of honesty, I'm ran out on day 12. So of this recording, this is going out. This is on Friday. It's going out tomorrow. So tomorrow for Saturday, I want to share it for the weekend because I feel like that can be where you have more opportunity to start a new habit. It can be a little bit easier. So that's why I'm rushing this. But I'll share with you my experience. My goal is to hit 14 and then stick with this, be a part of my schedule. If it's something that you want to hear more about for like an update later on after a few weeks, please let me know. Definitely, I'm in to share more of the experiences I stick with this habit moving forward. But I like the 14 days. It's great to start for a new habit. It's a challenge. I've done another episode about this that you can go to where it's the momentum challenge, 14-day momentum challenge. It feels nice to get into it. You get to go through the phases of the habit formation process. You have the best chance of going through all three in it. So that's what I'm doing is 14 days. On day 12, I'll share with you that experience. I'll tie in the tools, strategies, and techniques that I share of how to continue to show up and stay consistent with your habits, and how I'm implementing them, and just, the stuff that comes up. Think about that, the shit that I get hit with in my day as I'm building the business, trying to do this habit, as well as just like those moments where I'm like, I got to show up and do this workout. Like not every day I feel like it. And that's a really important reminder for you. Not every day you will feel like it to show up and put the reps in. And it's honoring when you got to take a day of pause, and then where you got to get back into it and just push through and be like, all right, I know these excuses could be there, but I'm not going to tie myself to them. I'm actually going to show up and put the reps in. Okay, so let me bring it down. Let me bring it down. I'm going on all these different tangents right now. All right, so bringing it on back, I want to first talk about how this connects to burnout. And where it starts for me is my 2021 story, where for me, I barely could do one pull-up when I went to visit my brother at his house. He has a garage in there, or garage attached to the house, where there's a pull-up bar. And for me, I am the guy that used to play like 3 sports in high school. I used to be able to do 12 pull-ups at a time. And so I remembered going there, and this was after my burnout. I was like, all right, let me try to do a pull-up. And I could barely do one. I'm like grabbing on the pull-up bar, trying to raise it up. I even think I might have been recording myself because I've been having this journey of wanting to focus on my fitness. So I think by then I was like getting started with it. And I remember just feeling so defeated afterwards because I could barely do one. And I look back to my past, I'm like, shit, dude, you could do 12 of these. And so that was a moment to like kick me in the ass to be like, dude, you gotta get back into this for focusing on this habit of feeling strong again with working out. And so over those years since 2021, it's been on and off, been trying to get back into it. And just with the business and what's been happening, it's been hard with the workload to really stay consistent with this habit. And then what I did, that's how I got started, was I said, okay, I'm going to do movement. That's how I'm going to get started. I'm going to do movement in my day. Did that for the walks. Then I got into stretching, got into more of corrective exercises to support different, I think about it for my entire frame, being able to support that, to then get into lifting weights. And so it's been this slow build to get to this point where I'm now in this phase of getting back into lifting weights. And there's a lot of like, what do I want to say with that? A lot of like embarrassment. Like, dude, I'm getting back into it, lifting weights at home. Yeah, like let's do this thing. But at the same time, I'm like, damn, dude, you used to be able to do this like a lot and very consistently. So for me, how it connects back to burnout is that it is one of my burnout proof habits is movement. And then getting into it specifically now with this habit, it's lifting weights. That's now going to become a burnout proof habit. It already is. And the reason why is because it's energizing for me. So I've talked about this before for the burnout spectrum, where every day your habits decide where you land on the spectrum, where you either have the draining habits, which is the burnout beast trying to pull you back towards hitting burnout. And then you have your energizing habits, which pull you to this other end of the spectrum, which is making burnout extinct. And again, for you to know this, my definition of burnout, how I define it, is a major life transition that's forced on you by your body. That's what happened to me after I hit my burnout. I could barely get out of bed. And I was really struggling for a long time there to go. And it was a slow recovery process. And I go back to the quote, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The better you can do this at the front end rather than hitting burnout and make those changes to your habits before, it's a lot easier to then make those changes and be able to move faster towards being burnout extinct, which it goes back to those feeling of the aliveness, the excitement for the momentum, and being able to feel more energized. And so that's how it connects, is ultimately having more habits that are energizing in your life than draining in your life. And that's how you make burnout extinct in the simplest way I can describe it. So now I want to get into my 14 days, or let me put it this way, my 12 days so far. So the beginning first few days, it was this recognition of like, all right, dude, you got to fucking show up and do this thing. Like, let's go. And those first few days, yeah, I had some excitement for the momentum. But what happened was with building the business, and I think about doing this show for you, workshops, getting ready for the consulting, like there's a lot that I got going on. And there can be a lot of these unexpected challenges that come my way. So what can happen is you're moving through life either in this like, hunched over shoulder, like you're hunched over, just like trying to like crawl through the day, or you can kind of be able to stand up more upright and actually move through it fast through the day of these challenges that you're getting dealt with. And there's like a different level of confidence that's there where it's expanded and you're like, fuck yeah, I can do this thing. Like I can move through this. And so with the habit of lifting weights, that's what I noticed those first few days was I was feeling stronger. I was like, this is awesome. Like I got this strength right here. I got to channel that strength into then the challenges in the business. And then what happens is I can be more effective in how I'm dealing with those challenges. I can then honor the commitment that I've made in the business, because I'm also honoring the commitment of this new habit. And so it creates this epic momentum wheel of like, let's keep going and seeing what else I can do. And so these challenges that come my way, I'm able to deal with them better than if I wasn't actually lifting weights at home. And so what I would do is I get creative for these first few days. I remembered for lifting weights, I'd wait till the end of the night. Just that's what happened with the schedule was I waited until the very last like few minutes to start lifting weights. And instead of saying, oh, I'll get to this tomorrow, I was like, no, I'm going to honor this commitment. And this is where flexibility can be really helpful for you. Being able to be flexible with either the time of the habit itself or when you do it in the day for this habit. So what I mean by that is you may want to do like a 30-minute workout, but you only have 5 minutes to be able to lift weights at home. And so do the 5 minutes. 5 minutes is better than no minutes. Or you may try to get it done in the morning, but all of a sudden you have unexpected challenges that come your way, things you were not prepared for that you have to go deal with. And so instead of going down these tornado thoughts of like, ah, shit, I didn't get this done today at the time I wanted to, so now I gotta like throw out the whole day and get back into it tomorrow. No, you still have hours in the day to figure out where you could add this habit back in of being able to lift weights at home. And then what's great is you can take the flexibility and shrink the amount of time that you're lifting these weights, because consistency, what's really important at the beginning is putting the reps in. So yeah, it would be great to get the hour workout in. That'd be awesome if that's something that you really want. But I believe in starting small and building up from there. It gives you the best chance to stay consistent with it and put those reps in, because the moments where I would do like this intense, if I hadn't worked out, for the past few days, and I decided to do like an hour workout, that's a big jump for the body. And what I want to remind you is what happens with anything new. Anything new for the body, it can create uncertainty. And so with uncertainty, there can be this fear that bubbles up from the body. And then there's a stress response that can happen where the body can interpret this new habit as a perceived threat, meaning that there's going to be intense resistance there's like this intense resistance that comes up, where then it's a lot harder to show up and put the rep in. That's where you can feel like you're getting hit with an imaginary wall, or like then you have the tornado thoughts of like, oh, maybe I'll get to it tomorrow. Like I'm way too tired right now. I got so much going on in the business, in my personal life, in my relationships. I just don't want to deal with this working out. So let me do it tomorrow. Like that's where then these tornado thoughts can happen. And the bigger the jump, the more resistance is possible to have happen, where then it becomes harder to have to like push through. And just pushing through can be exhausting in itself. It can be one way that over time you can hit one of the first red flags of burnout, which is chronic exhaustion. So that's where I come back to like starting small, realizing where you're headed in this thing, and remembering that where you start isn't going to be where you end up. So that's really helpful as you're going through this. This can help you with the embarrassing thoughts that can come up. This feeling of like, it's messy. I should be better than this right now. It's being able to give yourself a check-in of like, all right, where I start isn't going to be where I end up. So those first few days, I was riding off of this momentum of excitement, new habit. Then around day 3 to 4, I got hit with the resistance hard. And that's where I had to come back to flexibility. So I remember like pushing off the workout, pushing off lifting weights. And I just had so to give you an idea of what I had, or what I have right now, I have 2 dumbbells that you can change the weights in the dumbbells. And then I have like this bench that I makeshift. I turned it into bench press or step ups. I could do it there. And then, I've been doing squats. I've been doing step ups. I'm trying to think of what else I've done. Man, it's not coming to me. I'm trying to think of that exercise and the name of it. Maybe it'll come back to me. But then bench press is another one. And then I've done curls, bicep curls, and then triceps. Trying to think, I think that might be it for right now for these days. And yeah, so I'm just sticking with different exercises just for the consistency of showing up and putting those reps in. And then of course, later on, I can add more variety in there. But the key is with the repetition, getting my body familiar with this new habit, because when you feel familiar with certain things, it can, for the body, it can feel safer, even if it's something you don't want, right? Because you may want to have this new unknown out there for this habit that I'm implementing, where it's like, oh man, I wonder how I'm going to feeling stronger and what I'm going to be able to achieve and accomplish in the business and in my life. But the issue is for the body, it's an unknown. And so that's where you have this stress response of this fear of the unknown. And that's where then I call it the burnout beast, can be trying to drag you back to your old ways, your old patterns, your old habits. And that's where, for me, it's like choosing not to lift the weights at home. And then after that resistance, what happened is at day 6 is when I took a day to get off track. So I think at that point, I just forgot about it, is what came up. But I gave myself, when I got started with these 14 days, and it's something you can give yourself with 14 days, is 2 days off. It's like the 90% grace is what I call it. And I round it up for the 2 days. But it's telling myself, I'm going to give myself 2 days to get off track with this habit in the next 14 days. Reason being is that life happens. You're dealing with a bunch of challenges that come your way, and it's life. Like shit is going to happen. So it's that. And then what can be great is if you are, really putting in the reps and you're able to get through it and show up every day, getting off track, training yourself to get off track, understanding what are the body signals that come up. What are the tornado thoughts that I say to myself when I get off track? Do I say, what's wrong with you? Or like, why it feels like such a waste to take a day off? Understanding that pattern, you are going to notice that it becomes a pattern in other situations where you get off track with other habits. Like you start to realize, oh, I say this similar thing. Oh, my body does a similar thing. When you can recognize that and actually understand that in your body, then you don't take things so personally. Meaning you don't take it so personally for a day off of like something wrong with you. You just realize this is what happens for my body when I get off track. And when you can train that and become a master of understanding that, interpreting that, then it becomes a lot easier when really intense things that happen, if that's to family members, to your own life, to the business, you don't get completely off track or not. Instead, you can think about it this way. You're going to get off track, but then the time to get back on track is going to be much faster when you can prepare for those body sensations. Because again, these habits, these burnout proof habits, are there to energize you. And so they're there to take care of you. And during the really tough moments, these habits are actually very helpful to lean on, to support yourself, to move through it. And that's where I come back to this foundation, having a strong foundation, and building these habits up so that you can handle these unexpected challenges of your way. That's where this expansion of confidence comes in. That's where you're able to move through life feeling super like fired up and ready to go and take on what's going to come your way. So I got hit with day 6, then day 7, got back on track. Then I think I'm trying to remember the other day I've taken off. It might have been day 10. I've gotten off track, and then we're on day 12 now today. So it must have been day 10 is when I got off track. That's the other day. So I've gotten already my 2 days off track. I got 2 more days, or 3 more days technically, if I'm doing my math right here, to continue putting the reps for the 14 days. But what's happened is every time I put the reps in, there are some days where I don't feel like it for showing up on this habit. And that's a reminder for you. Not every day you're going to feel like it, but it's afterwards what happens. I do feel energized. I do feel stronger. I feel my confidence expanding, because on those days where I didn't want to show up and put the rep in, I did it. And so I reminded my body for a habit that I can show up even when I don't feel like it and put the rep in. And doing things like that, of honoring that commitment, that builds trust, a greater level of trust with your body, where then your body is going to give you better signals to let you know when you're moving towards hitting burnout, so that you can adjust your behaviors and your habits. Because you think about that in like a partnership or a relationship. If you don't feel the trust is there, then you aren't going to be as open in how you communicate with the other person, of really sharing what's truly going on, right? And those feelings that can come up. Because for me, when I think about it in this habit of feeling strong and feeling energized and honoring the commitment, I know what can happen when I'm not doing that. I know that there can be these moments where I'm just telling myself like, dude, what the hell are you doing? And it can feel like then I'm in this box that I put, this imaginary box that I put in around my life. And then I really feel like I'm coming at it from a place of fear of how I'm leading my life, rather than this exploring, seeing what's possible energy. And because of that, I dim down what I think is possible for me. And that's where these doorways of possibilities start to close instead of open. And what happens is that can get into a momentum cycle in a negative way, where then if I'm not honoring my commitments with this working out, what other habits then can that seep into that I'm not honoring commitments? If that's showing up in my relationships, if that's showing up with drinking water, staying hydrated, eating foods that are energizing for me, all these other habits, it creates a ripple effect. But at the same time, if it can do it that way, it can also do it that way, where if I honor this commitment of showing up and put the rep in for working out at home, that ripples out into all the other habits as well. And that's where it ripples out into this confidence that can expand in me. And that momentum can be a positive momentum cycle that can happen. But you may have those thoughts that come up for yourself right now, where there's a lot of uncertainty in your life, uncertainty in how this business is going to turn out, with all the potential unknowns that you're dealing with, whatever that is, for these unexpected challenges. And you really might feel like, I think of the visual feeling is like hunched over, just like huddled up, trying to get through the day. And that's where this exhausting feeling can build up for you. And this draining, every day can feel draining, or like the draining energy is stacking up. And you can feel that overwhelm building in the body, and then the stress building in the body. And all of that, if it's not changed and addressed and listened to from the body, is going to lead you to one-way ticket to hitting burnout and getting dragged by that burnout beast. And so it comes back to starting small with this. And then after you put the rep in, celebrating putting the rep in. I've talked about it so many times for this habit, but literally celebrating for the body. And what I mean by that is how I do it is I tap over my shoulders, raise my arms up, and I go, yeah, let's go. Like, I've talked about this recently, and I know you're going to be like, all right, it's a broken record here. But my question for you is, have you done it? Have you celebrated after putting a rep in? Because it does two things for the body. And some examples. First, the two things. One, it tells your body you want more of this, which is really important because then it becomes a direction. The other thing that it does is that it can be a way for the body to release dopamine, that internal reward. So you're not just relying on an external reward to show up and put the rep in for habits, but you have this bridge because if you're like me and I have a reward to watch my favorite show after I put a rep in for like working out, I'm after a few days, I'm probably just going to go straight to watching the show. Like I'm going to just skip over. And so the celebration internally or celebrating with the body, that's my bridge to continue to show up and put the rep in. And again, some ways you can do it is like a head nod is one. You could just do like fist up in the air and be like, let's go. That could be how you got started. This is how I got started, was just like, yeah, like, let's go. And then you build it up from there. But what I will tell you is for the confidence, I've realized I've held myself back in so many ways. This habit of lifting weights at home has reminded me of the strength that I have within me and my body, what I'm capable of. It connects me back to these moments, years ago, like when I was working out more consistently with lifting weights. It just reminds me of that. But now I have new knowledge and information going back to corrective exercises I've learned, these focusing on movement, understanding more parts of my body, noticing the pressures and the tensions in my body. And then how you can get started with this habit, just to break it down for you, is you may not have actual weights. Think about other things that you can hold on to, like water bottles could be example. I think of cases of water as another one, or chair. Like there's different ways that you can go into lifting weights. It's figuring out what's going to be your right way. I go back to the quote of a mentor of mine, John Butcher, which he says, there is no one right way, but there is a right way for you. And then what I did for exercise was I go to YouTube. Athlean X is the channel I go to. Jeff Cavalier. I listen to what he shares for different exercises, and I base it off of that for what I'm going to do. I don't do the exact workout. I pick different things that work for me, and I get creative with it. But being able to feel stronger, that helps you to then think better in how you're dealing with problem solving for these challenges that you're getting faced with. Also, it helps you to show up and when you're dealing with other people that can come in and try to bulldoze you or try to push you into a certain direction that does not feel right. It's like where the person's shouting at you. And instead of just like being like, oh, okay, I guess I'll listen, they sound confident. It's like, no, you're at a level of confidence that you can critically think to what they're saying. Does it resonate for you? Does it make sense? Are you understanding the points that they're trying to get across? And then you can choose how you respond to the situation that you're dealing with and how you move forward through that situation. And man, when you can give yourself that gift and that gift for your body, you open up whole new doorways of possibilities for your life, and you move at a whole new level through life. And it just becomes this like epic energy that gets poured out into the world. And it's all there. It's just for us to tap into that. It's available to us. And literally by moving, you are producing energy in the body. And then over time, as you build more movement in, you increase your capacity in the body, which I thought was so cool. This I learned from Dr. Casey Means, of that ability to do that and increase our capacity. And man, that's such a cool momentum cycle that can happen for you. So I want to remind you that remembering where you start is not going to be where you end up. And so to recap it for you, over these 12 days now, in the 14 days, I've been able to go through the 3 phases of the habit formation process, getting now into the autopilot phase. So I've had the beginning phase, which is awkward. It's gonna be a little messy, and you got to figure out your schedule or figure out how this is gonna be added into your schedule. Then you move into the angry phase, where there's gonna be this intense natural resistance that can come up from the body, because I talked to you of what anything new can do for the body. And so it's honoring that resistance, recognizing it, where you get off track, it happens, get back on track, and then move through it. And that's where you then get into the autopilot phase, where there's less friction. It's like a neutral energy of just showing up, putting the reps in. And my goal for you with this show is to help you get all these, what I call burnout proof habits, these habits that are energizing for you, to move them into the autopilot phase. And so remembering flexibility is really important here as you get started, being able to remember to start small. And then that reminder for yourself, where you start isn't going to be where you end up. And I want you to know, if you haven't heard it yet today, I believe in you. You have the capabilities here to listen to signals from the body, to make those changes to the behavior, into the habit. And for this one specifically, to be able to show up and put the reps in for this habit of lifting weights at home. It's figuring out what's going to be the right way for you. You got this.